Okay, are we live yet? There we go. The timer has started. I think we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would sit down and do a live stream for you guys and gals. Let me give you guys a bicep shot before we get started. Oh, Mount Bicephus. All right, see who rolls in here. The one yesterday, it started timing like this, and then it restarted, and then people started rolling in. So hopefully that doesn't happen today. Hopefully it stays continuous, and we'll see what it does. There we go. Now we got people coming in already. So something is almost a side note. Something I've admitted recently. Look, a lot of the bros got stuff right, and I feel like the whole evidence-based YouTube world, everything else over a decade ago when it was really hitting, tried to pretend, look, none of these bro methods work. And a lot of us tried to be as evidence-based as possible, but the fact of the matter is, if you follow a lot of the evidence, a lot of things that pros were doing back in the day is still heavily supported by the research. Things like really low-fat diets, eating clean. All right, this is still good evidence for this stuff. As far as, again, when you look at that, yeah, the body doesn't store carbohydrates as fat to a significant degree. I've done detailed videos on that. So again, those sort of diets will keep you leaner. They're high satiety. When you start looking at diet adherence studies, high satiety diets matter, like the whole flexible dieting thing. Even though, yes, it's calories in, calories out, hasn't panned out that well, because if you do what a lot of those people recommend, you struggle with calories in, calories out. That's the ironic part. Eating clean makes it easier. Plus, a lot of more whole foods actually have slightly higher thermic effects. You literally burn a little more calories eating them. It's not massive. It's not going to be 1,000 calories difference, but they make you burn a little more and you don't get as hungry. You guys kind of see why that would matter for calories in, calories out, and adherence, of course. Same thing with the body part splits. A lot of us were looking at a lot of that preliminary data 15, 20 years ago saying, hey, muscle protein synthesis is done in like 28 to 48 hours after a workout. Therefore, we interpreted it as higher frequency, extremely beneficial for gaining muscle. But that's not really what later data has shown, has it? Right? Those weren't studies showing, hey, more muscle growth occurs. They were studies saying muscle protein synthesis. But we still deal with that individual recovery factor, session to session, intramuscular. So localized fatigue, localized recovery, systemic recovery, right? So what do you find in a lot of the studies have been looking at it are showing now that, yeah, once a week is just fine. It's just fine. It produces just as much muscle growth. What do we see people do for decades? I mean, body part splits did work. I mean, we could argue, the argument used to be, well, it's only working because guys are on gear and it's extending the muscle protein synthesis, which is a nice hypothesis. I mean, it's a great hypothesis, right? Did it pan out when it's been looked at more closely? Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. Good morning, coach. See that from a couple people. Alexa Jones, I already know you're going to be a troll. First of all, you're a girl. You picked a girl's name, girl's picture, and you misspelled coach as couch. Bro, we already know you're going to post something crazy 20 minutes in, and I'm just going to get rid of you. So let's just get it out of the way now. Go ahead and shoot your load, bro. And then we can get it out of the way. Let's just make it easier. Let's just make it easier. Yeah, I know it's a play on the Alex Jones name also. So go ahead, Alexa. Go ahead, John or Dwight or Howard or whatever your name is. Go ahead and just shoot your shot. Let's get it out of the way. Do you like green powders for health? No, I think you should be eating fruits and vegetables. Rondo, not real. I mean, I used to. These days, I'm currently not. I don't want to get into a whole discussion of the Olympics, but I obviously have some issues based on what you guys know, what I feel about fair play in sports, of not allowing politics. I don't like when politics goes into sports. Either side, I think it's a problem. It interferes with what sports are about. There's obviously some issues. I'm not going to be specific, but it's not hard to figure out, uh, right? Not hard to figure out involving boxing. So again, I've got my opinions on that. There's issues with the Olympics. I'm not even a fan of all the fake drug testing they do. Honestly, that's another big thing for me. That's again all started with American politics. We pushed all of that years ago, even though we created the first, second country to do it, but we pushed them hard. We did it as a response. Um, you know, yeah, no, she's awesome, dude. I mean, again, she represents the country really, really well, right? She's a hell of an athlete. Hell of an athlete. You know, again, but that's what you should expect to see. I mean, people getting gold medals. I don't care what the sport is. You start medaling at all. Hell, you place top 10 in anything in the Olympics. What are you looking at there? You're looking at someone who is absurdly genetically gifted at their sport, who usually has an inhuman work ethic, like top tier work ethic when you're at that level. I mean, so those are just born athletes. It's someone who has all the physical gifts and then has an unusual amount of drive. Because people point out, well, a lot of really gifted athletes make it into professional sports without training super hard. They do. They do. I mean, NFL has a lot of those, right? They wrote in, or D1 athletes who wrote in based on genetic ability. But when you start talking about getting to the Super Bowl, you start talking about placing top 10 in the Olympics. That's no longer just about gifts. That is about straight up work ethic too. At that point, it means that you were in the top 1% of 1% for your sport, and you work harder than 99% of people. Okay, so there you go. I believe she is. I mean, I'm not from Houston originally. I live here and I've lived here a few times. I am not like H-Town born. I'm actually from Central Texas, in a small town originally. But maybe 50% of my childhood here. Advice on burning bridges with people you don't want to associate with. Just don't associate with them, dude. Do whatever you need to do. What's up, Jay Daddy? Happy to catch you on a live again. Can't wait to get back to the gym. Why don't you get back in the gym, man? Get back in the gym. Nothing's stopping you, man. Get on it. What's holding you back, brother? Get in there. Why do you think pure refined sugar fructose is bad for the liver? Blah, 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 blah. Because of the data. Look, if we measure something in the metabolic ward and you say, why do you believe that? Well, because we can measure it. That's pretty straightforward. That's like saying, why do you believe the sky is blue? Well, because I can look up and see that it's blue, and then I can take a device and measure the color spectrum and see that it's in the blue spectrum, right? So we can literally measure that. Now, that being said, it's still a quantitative issue. It's only fructose that reaches the liver. And therein lay the conundrum, right? It's not that refined fructose is automatically bad for the liver. It has to reach the liver. Now, there's a lot of metabolic processes involved in that. Okay? There's a lot of metabolic processes involved in that. But we know that when it reaches the liver, we can measure the effect, and it's not good. Do you know what else isn't good when it reaches the liver? It's saturated fatty acids. So, I mean, realistically, if we start talking about the two things in people's diets that are the biggest problems, you notice the two extremes argue that the other one is bad and theirs is good, right? The hardcore keto people and carnivore people all scream about how refined sugars are the problem and saturated fat is great. even though we can measure this, right? And then the vegans will scream about the saturated fat, and some of them will claim the refined sugar is not the issue. The problem is they're both full of crap. We can measure it. They're both bad. Like there's no real debate on it. It's been measured repeatedly in the lab, in the metabolic ward. We know what they do. It's not a great mystery. It's not some great debate for diet fanatics to argue about. This is a scientific thing that can be measured, and it has been measured. They're both a problem. Can you get fatty liver while being at a low body? Oh, I mean, in theory, it would be harder to, Alexander. The thing is, when you have people like that who are burning through insane amounts of calories, really good insulin sensitivity, maybe they're eating really low fat. So here's the thing, they're not getting the saturated fat and the fructose, both are just getting the fructose. They're lean with an insane energy turnover. They may be producing more of the enzymes. They also may have a genetic resistance to that, because what's one of the things we've discussed, there's multiple factors that your body tries to utilize in order to reduce the load on the liver from the fructose, right? One of them is the amount of enzymes that we produce in our blood to convert it into glucose. There's a genetic component and a lifestyle component to that. So when people say, how much can you convert? It's not a set number. So some of those people who are pulling that off, you see where we're going? They may be genetically predisposed to being more resistant to that while having insane energy turnovers. Okay? So that being said, it's not wise to consume large amounts of refined sugars. Just like it's not wise to consume large amounts of saturated fatty acids. It doesn't matter that there are some genetic individuals who are resistant to each of those with the problems. You better make sure that you're not one of them if you're going to go that route. Hello, Lacey. Yep, just went live. So that's the problem with the vegan extremists who literally believe animal products are the only problem and that they eat huge amounts of refined sugar. That is just as insane as the crazy carnivores on the other extreme. Like, that's an insane approach. We know that they're both problematic. Ottoman, perfect. Yeah, lowering red meat and sugar consumption, again, refined sugars, alone will curb most of the health issues the majority of people suffer. I agree with that. Lower both of them. I'm not even saying you have to abstain. I'm just saying limit both. If people literally just limited both of those, 50% of our health problems would go away in America. Half, across the board. Heart attacks, cancer, diabetes, they'd all be cut in half. You start doing some weight training with that, man. What's worse, unhealthy being 5% body fat or 40%? AP, that's hard to say because you picked extremes. Now, here's what I will say. In theory, being 5% is worse if you could sustain it. Like if you somehow were locked into a room and forced to stay at 5% body fat, the person would die faster. But you can't do it. Like you can't sustain that on your own without being physically forced by another human being to do it against your will. Does that make sense? Or extreme drug abuse that suppresses appetite, like maybe people who suffer from serious anorexia with some sort of amphetamine addiction. But a normal human can't do that. So when we start talking about longer term, of course, I mean, being 40% body fat for a male is absolutely deadly in the long term. Can adipose tissue release adipocinates that can cause insulin resistance even at 15? Insulin at 15%? I mean, hypothetically, but it's going to be diet related and lifestyle related. So you have to look at diet composition and activity level. Bill, let me get over to you because you just donated, brother. Blessings, any main lift accessory benchmarks I should hit for a 600 deadlift house strong or row? Oh, man. Gosh, I'm trying to think of when I first crested that 600 deadlift on camera. I'm pretty sure I was doing rep work on rows with like 250 off for pin lays, right? Pin lays off the floor, which I'm stronger at than bent over rows. Um, I know I had hit at least a 500 good morning. I had been squatting at least 500. Kind of see where we're going there. But even rep work, for rep work, I know even on good mornings, I had done work sets with like 315. I had done work sets with it around 315 or so before I pulled that first 600. RDL is a great accessory, conventional. I love the reverse hyper as well. I mean, yeah, RDL. Some of my guys, we use RDL a lot for even powerlifting, right? Like one of my guys who just hit he just hit some lifetime PRs at his first powerlifting meet. We got his next one coming up. He's a master's lifter. We pretty much built his deadlift off RDLs and reverse hypers. How much would you be willing to spend on a monthly gym fees? More uncommon equipment like reverse hyper. I don't know. I don't think I've ever spent more than 50 to 60 on a gym, including ones that had reverse hypers and stuff, include ham raises. But I don't. The economy's a little different now. I just hit. Should I work out if I'm sick? No, bro, don't work out sick. I got videos on that. Bill said, I just hit 275 for a 5x5 pin lay. Appreciate it, brother. Thanks. Yeah, dude, you're closing in on 600 deadlift. As long as the hamstrings are up to speed. How come you don't want to check out the Olympics? Honestly, man, I've lost interest because of so much nonsense around it. I just have. Honestly, I watched the Olympics more before I was a fitness person than after. I'm just not a big spectator sport guy. I'm just really not. Jason, what do you think of blood types, nutrition, nonsense? Complete debunk, silly nonsense. Hi, Jason. How much time does your average client with kids and a busy job spend in the gym? Ooh, how busy? Like I would say some of my guys who have really serious, very serious hardcore careers in kids, as little as an hour and a half to 2 hours per week. Now, are some of those guys jacked and strong? Yeah, I mean, we're talking like 315 bench level, over 500 deadlifts. Yeah, absolutely. Like dudes in their 40s. Jason, do you like 24 or 48 hours rest between workouts? I train Monday through Friday right now. I do a 5-day body part split. How much are those big things of Greek yogurt you buy at Costco? I'm not living near Costco anymore. It used to be like half a block from me, right? So they were, I believe, $5.89 back then when I used to buy them. I don't know what they cost right now. Jason, why do some baseball players take tests but they don't look like they lift? They're on tests and they lift. They do look like they lift. You mean why don't they look like competitive bodybuilders? Because they don't have the genetics to look like competitive bodybuilders and they don't train like competitive bodybuilders. You are aware of how small the average gear user is, right? Have you seen the data on it? Have you observed it in the real world? Just to follow up, the DeFranco program literally has like a squat bench variant bands changed for 3x5 racks. You were saying it. Oh, well, no, because of what you asked me, Lacey. I didn't know which DeFranco. I haven't looked at DeFranco's stuff in probably 8 to 10 years. I'm a little out of the loop. I do remember his program vaguely, West Side for Skinny Bastards. I don't know if that's what you're running, but keeping in mind, that isn't what I felt like your question was in the comments. Does that make sense? Like that's not what I saw written. And I think you mentioned DeFranco later. But even then, a 5 rep max? Are you rotating lifts every week? I mean, it's hard to call that conjugate. Nice, bro. I'm going to do a push-pull leg split if I'm going to blow up, man. if you do that 3 days a week. I don't like the 2 day a week on it. Jason, what's your experience with the Wisconsin method? That sounds familiar off the top of my head. I cannot remember what that is, if I'm going to be honest. Break it down. Jason, you got them veins popping in them arms, looking lean, brother. Thank you. It's coming along, right? Got the arm veins. So you guys see that's not any sort of editing when I'm in the weight room. How many of your clients are running conjugate right now? Only 2. Why most carnivores have high fasting blood sugars? Mine are flat at the time. I'm going to white rice it. Alexander, it's actually pretty common to have low fasting blood sugar on a high carb diet. So it's because they're on a really low carb diet. I know that sounds contradictory, but remember when I put up blood work a couple years back, my fasting glucose was below the normal range to the point where the doctor said, oh, this is low. I was eating like 600 grams of carbs a day. All right. In essence, it's Bulgarian Light. Man, Bulgarian Light is rough. I wouldn't run it again. I did Bulgarian Light for 7 months straight on camera. Can the heart regenerate damaged cells like Cali? I wouldn't listen to anything Cali Muscle says about health or medical stuff. How to deal with the envy other men at my gym are massive, lean, and attractive men, and I am skinny and ugly. Hey, Pooh, why are you going to say that about yourself? Why are you going to say that about he's the skinny you can fix? But, you may not really be as ugly as you think you are. Work on your confidence. You're looking great, man. Love the content, your knowledge, man. Appreciate it, brother. Potatoes or white rice, man. I like both. I'm not eating white rice this week. I have a bunch, but I've been doing a lot more brown rice at the moment on my cut. Potatoes, I've been switching normal and sweet potatoes. So I think they're keeping in mind, I think white rice is a faster, easier, just cleaner carb if you just need the calories. Potatoes probably have a better overall nutrition content. What made you change from recommending conjugate? Because I was running, Chris, we're asking me on the spot of why my training has evolved over time. Because most of my clients right now are not competitive athletes. I've had a lot of competitors at that time. Most of my people now, what I've had for an influx of clients matches very much what I put out. I'm getting a lot of dad bod transformations, a lot of physique stuff, and actual serious athletes who are serious about a combat sport or a strength sport are maybe 15, 20% of my clients. The majority of my clients these days are literally, they just want to be jacked and look good and then be strong on top of it. Like most of them at this point, their appearance is actually number one and then strength second. So we train accordingly. But, are we talking contact sport athletes? Man, I like conjugate still. How many carbs do you eat a day? At least 500. I don't track the exact grams. Do you eat eggs? No. Do you think adipose tissue, when empties, gets full of water, then flushes, known as the whoosh? It's not about the adipose tissue. It's subcutaneous and everything else. Okay, so the whooshes have to do with cortisol and stress hormones maintaining homeostasis in the body. And then once your body normalizes, it whooshes down the water when you've been in a deficit for a while. It's nothing to do with necessarily your adipose tissue holding it. It's your whole body. Does training legs increase test? Maybe a tiny amount. Being healthy increases testosterone. And since training legs will help make you healthy and help is part of a healthy lifestyle, hypothetically, yes. Are you asking me if you come in and squat heavy where there'll be a measurable increase in your testosterone doing nothing else but that? Probably not. What is your recommended progression scheme for the average intermediate to advanced lifter? You're not going to have a progression scheme. You're going to base it upon what rep ranges you're trying to hit and assess the progression on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis. How do you get your carb count up that higher? What are you eating? I put up groceries yesterday, Kevin. Rice, sweet potatoes. Those make up most of my calories. Today I ate some watermelon and stuff. How low body fat percentage are you going to cut? I don't know, probably 10%. Ballpark. We'll assess this as I continue to get leaner. Do you have advice on training to failure if you're able to too shy to ask for a spot in the gym? I've been pinned a few times on bench. Apu, I guess you're just going to die then. If you're too shy to ask for a spot, then I mean that's it, dude. I guess you don't care about living. I guess your shyness overpowers your desire to live another day or to not get hurt. Too bad. I will never understand that level of shyness. I don't know. Maybe that's something a therapist can help with. I actually do not understand that at all. I have never in my adult life been afraid to approach complete strangers and start a conversation. I literally don't understand that. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I would be like, just fucking die then. I guess if you're too shy to talk to another human being. I mean, see, because I don't understand. Like you should probably find a really, really, really introverted person to ask for advice on that. I'm not gonna be helpful. In fact, I'm probably just gonna upset you. You said Jerry Ward do nothing, blah, blah, blah. It had nothing to do just with the bro splits. It was the pink weights, the tiny pink dumbbells, everything else. Are we really gonna hash out the late Jerry Ward? Right? Oh man. Come on, dude. Let the man rest in peace. Do you think your cut will help grow your channel? It has been growing my channel. It's been helping. It's helped grow my clients. All right. Couldn't let it go, could you? All right. Do you think there's any merit to diet breaks holding mental fatigue constant? Potentially, yeah. The Anytime Fitness I go to has a full squat racks with pins, etc. You can fail while being all alone and be totally fine. Yeah, you could do everything in the rack, Spencer. I mean, that's what I do. But he's saying he's been pinned, and so if he can't use safeties, I mean, I don't know what to tell him other than learn to talk to other. Honestly, how do any of you people hold jobs? If you tell me, it's like the guys who say I can't talk to girls. I don't understand that. How do you have a job if you can't talk to other people? Like, how do you pay your bills and stuff? I don't get it. Should I reduce my carbs on a cut? You're going to need to reduce your calories. Now, that's going to probably invariably lead to some carbohydrate reduction because you're going to have to remove something, right? How many fats should I eat on a cut? That's not a straightforward answer. Sounds like you need some coaching. I got slots open. Thomas says, hey, Jason, what do you think of protein powders with calcium just as opposed to this way? I don't think there's any benefit. I think it just costs more. Right? Whey is easily available because of the cheese industry waste product. It's a superior amino acid profile and bioavailability. Just do whey. Problem solved. I don't think there's any benefit to taking casein. And whey is usually just for people who either need a protein overfeed or for convenience. Not really a big deal. So that being said, when you look at it from that perspective, I think the whole casein thing, it's to digest slower, we can take it pre-bed. That's all way overhyped. It really was way overhyped. There's no real muscle building benefit to that. Maybe for some people it suppresses appetite better, maybe due to the slower digestion. But at that point, maybe you could just go to a Greek yogurt or something and get the same effect instead of a protein powder, right? So those are my quick thoughts on it. But hey, if you just really love the taste of casein and it meets your price point, I mean, a good protein powder is a good protein powder. I am drinking Sonic Cherry Limeade. Nope. Mainly just because I like it. I can drink straight water too and have for years. I used to almost joke about why do you need to do stuff like that, and I'm just like, you know what? I like the taste. So I started doing it myself. There you go. But I also don't get that people's like, I can't drink water. I'm like, this sounds like a weird problem. I mean, someone tells me they can't drink water. I mean, it's one thing to say I prefer the flavor. Someone says they can't drink water. Man, I don't know what happened in their gene pool. Their ancestors had to drink water to survive for all of biological life. Let's not even talk about recorded history, and then they can't drink water. That sounds like someone who's got some weird mutation, and they're going to just die off, and their gene pool is going to die out. You can't drink water, It sounds weird to me. I don't get that. People are strange. Any advice on being successful on YouTube? Start early. All right, build a time machine. Water flavors are probably a net benefit because most people don't get the recommended daily about. Yeah, probably so, Ottoman. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah. All right, man, I'm gonna hit up prime time in Paris and have a good one. Was an athlete growing up. I enjoyed that stuff. Peace. All right, man. Take care. Good luck to you, bro. You prefer Sonic over diet soda for diet soda? No, I don't necessarily prefer it. I just don't want to cart in all those extra liters of diet soda all the time. This is convenient. I can just go fill up the water and throw it in without packing in a bunch of extra additional stuff all the time and having to shop and buy a bunch of heavy bottles of. It's just me being lazy, to be honest. Okay, Jason, should my bench all right, let me read this carefully. Okay, Jason, should my bench be progressing 5 pounds every workout in the beginning phase, like Mark Ripto says, or should I be progressing stagnant like yours has been? Oh, I bench way more than you ever will, even as an old man. So, all right. You can't ban certain words on YouTube. These trolls are obnoxious. Yeah, you can ban certain words, but there's only so many. What do you think of the carnivore Dr. Robert White's, who says butter fixes heart? Every cardiologist and nutritionist in the world would say that he's insane if he's really said that. That's pretty much sums it up. Diet Dr. Pepper is my favorite soda. Is it bad for me? No, it's bad for you. Again, some of it may not be the greatest for your teeth, but barring that, not really an issue. I mean, look at the data. Look at all the safety data on aspartame and stuff. It's pretty far down our list of concerns. Just going to say, when we live in a world where you can get refined sugar and alcohol and butter, aspartame is pretty far down your list of concerns. Are Good Mornings on a Smith machine recommended? No. No. Chris, there's a degree of truth to that, man. And I did chase strength a long time, and I like strength. But honestly, when I look at what clients who can afford coaching want, there's a lot more people who want to look good than who want a massive deadlift. It's just the reality. Smith machine bench has been promoted a lot recently on YouTube Fitness. Thoughts? I don't know why. It's a fad. It'll die out. They'll quit. People will be back to the barbell or dumbbell again in no time. These things go in waves. When you're newer to the fitness world, you don't always realize that we go through all these cycles of stuff. It just always goes back and forth on all these topics, decade after decade after decade, as far as the trends. Hey, Jason, what's your thoughts on vegan gains hitting a 405 bench? I don't really have thoughts on it. Pretty good bench. Basically, the perfect diet is McDougall starch-based diet with lean meat, and fruit, zero added oils, maybe some nuts. Honestly, I mean, if you're going to really shooting for what McDougall was trying to do, you may not even want a lot of the seeds and nuts, although I would agree they're healthy. When you look at specifically, I'm actually very familiar with Dr. McDougall, right? And he recently passed, I believe. Like, honestly, his patients had really good results. They really had good results in terms of things like reversing type 2 diabetes and stuff. He got tons and tons and tons of people completely off meds. Chris, go look at the pages of all the coaches that I'm friends with and stuff on social media. Everyone's complaining. Like, the economy is bad. The economy is bad. So I know coaches who are literally they've lost literally over half of their income or more of their coaching just purely because of the economy, right? Inflation, recession, cost of living, people have less disposable income. So I'm doing pretty decent, but I mean, it's more competitive right now, right? It is way more competitive. It has nothing to do with coaching. It literally has to do with economics. And I can tell you straight up, like, if I had to pay my bills based on power lifters, what power lifters can afford, I'd be in trouble as of right now. I'm just going to leave it at that, because that's already a demographic that is not, how do I put it? Just in terms of disposable income, as far as lifters, I've found that demographic to not be the best already. And when you're dealing with this now, people who actually want to look, people who have money want to look good. That is just a simple reality. Anyway, Chris, I'm starting to feel like at this point you are kind of a troll, though, bro. So I'm gonna keep an eye on you. You might be out of here. All right. How do you feel mentally? I don't know how to even answer that, Endo. If Alan, aka Keto Body, started taking leg training seriously, you think he would be a good source of info for the teens on YouTube? I don't know what he's teaching these days, so I can't answer that. Right? He obviously has gained more experience over the years, but I don't know what he's promoting at the moment. Does stretching the pecs by using a wider grip versus bringing the weight lower, wide grip bench versus dumbbell differ in terms? The sentence, yeah, that's a bit of a complicated sentence. At the end of the day, it's going to be about how deep of a stretch in general are you getting relative workloads. If you're looking for an exact yes or no to a question like that, I wish you the best of luck finding an answer. What's your opinion on Dave Tate's info? I don't know what Dave's doing lately, but I used to follow a lot of stuff in the past and chime into his podcast, read a lot of his stuff. In terms of just strength training, Dave's solid. Right? Dave's solid. Will you ever compete again in powerlifting? Maybe, but I won't announce it ahead of time. Could I hire you for more life advice rather than lifting? Sure, but why would you do that? It's not my area of expertise. So why would you hire someone who runs a certain type of business? And not to turn away money here. I'm not trying to say, oh, I don't want $300 a month from you. But I mean, my question would be, why would you do that? When I'm clearly a coach, and how do you know my life advice would even be useful to you? Now, if you're just wanting, but if you're just because you want to get to chat to your favorite YouTuber or whatever, I suppose. I mean, people have done consultations who turned out they just wanted to hang out with me for an hour and chat, and we didn't even discuss their training, and they were perfectly happy with it. Are big calves just genetic? No, genetics is a huge factor. I find it odd. I've never heard Dave Tate mention the Pendlay rows of deadlift accessory. Isn't it one of the best to do? He recommends a lot of other back work. Spencer, I'm going to say that any of the back work is going to be useful. I don't think that the Pendlay row has to be the one. I like it, but it's just a preference. Just a preference as a deadlift accessory. I think you're pretty wise, Jason. You overcame a lot of BS in the last decade. That's true. I mean, Endo, I mean, it's up to you. I guess put in an application and kind of see what you're looking for in terms of just being able to chat. But you may not necessarily have to hire me for coaching. You could hire me for consultations without committing to an actual month-to-month coaching, right? It'd probably save you money if you just wanted to get questions like that answered and get a one-on-one chat. It would probably be more cost-effective for you. Most people that have big calves and form overweight, not necessarily. There's a tendency towards it, but I don't know that I'd say most. Right now, I have a 400 bench, pause, 415 touch and go, 515 squat, 620 deadlift. Some numbers are good for a 30-year-old natty about to compete for the first time. Drug-free competing in the 220, those are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal starting numbers. It says underneath every video in the comments, inquire here for coaching with a link to my big Facebook page. You just DM me there. Data on seated calf raise suggested, are they useless? No, they're not useless. It just showed that standing is probably better. I saw that data. I've always kind of felt standing is the better overall, brings more to the table. There's just some data kind of showing that, which is interesting, but I wouldn't say they're useless. Is isolating neck training necessary? No, but it has its place. Thanks, Coach. I started watching you when I was a 19-year-old gym noob, learned that ice cream fitness 5x5. There you go, man. One of the biggest calves I ever saw is the guy that walks around all the time, hoarding around all whole day, doesn't drive a car. Maybe I could see that. Jason, you've been grinding, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what my plans will be 10 years from now. I can't answer that, Morgan. I mean, dude, my life has been through so many different things in the past decade. Who in the world knows what's going to happen in the next 10, you know? Ice Cream Fitness 505 popularized base building and changed gym culture. It probably did, at least through YouTube. You are most welcome. 30-degree versus 45 incline bench. I like 45, but for some people, 30 may actually work the chest more. So that's what I do. I do both stand. You suspect this is better than just doing one movement? Go guys. If you're trying to absolutely maximize every last drop of calf hypertrophy, I would say it's probably better to do what you're doing. If it's an absolute priority for you, right? Is it going to be a massive difference by adding the seated in? Probably not, at least looking at how it feels in the data. But will it potentially matter over the long term? Yes, it will probably give you a little bit more. Do you think the inflation will get better? Honestly, man, I have no idea. That is not my area of expertise. All right. No, I don't advocate stretching before lifting. All right, what else we have going on? We're at 44 minutes. The past, I know you've recommended melatonin. You took it yourself. Do you recommend it for 20-year-olds to improve sleep? Is it detrimental to create? I've never seen data showing that it actually creates reliance. I've never seen data on that. The biggest downside is honestly the vivid dreams. Like that's the worst part. But that is a major side effect. And there are times where I'm not even taking it at the moment because the dreams, again, they were getting too vivid for me to a point where it just wasn't worth it again, even though I've used it for prolonged periods of time. Um, so that, and then potentially, those are your real issues with it. Vegan gains, I don't want to cover all that. I get very ill, diarrhea, protein powder. Why don't you just eat lean meats then, or lactose-free dairy? Hey, poo. Simple enough. What weight are you shooting for to get to, Chris? I'm gonna, as I get down towards 200, I'm gonna assess further from there of where I want to go at that point. I've been saying that for a little while. Do you have any clients who care about a sex who have crappy calf genetics? You think it'd be worth doing them earlier in leg session? Yeah, I have some. No, we just do what we can. We just do what we can. Um, if they have bad calf genetics, we just work hard on them and just keep working on getting them bigger. Is raw? No, raw milk is actually should be illegal in my opinion. It is in many places. There is no data whatsoever to show any benefits. Only a very very small health risk with no benefits. Every single thing that's looked at the claimed benefits when it's been studied have been found they're not there. And people can't even claim a financial bias because technically the dairy industry could skip a whole step if they could sell raw milk. Okay. It would actually cut their cost. So I'm sure they would love for it to be free reign on it. But it's not safe. Rondo, why would I try hair regrowth products? No. Let me put it to you this way: even if I could fix my thinning hair, if it reversed, I would just go through more razor blade shaving it. All it would do is increase my monthly razor blade bill. If I could regrow the hair that's missing, I would just have to shave it. I don't see a benefit to that. Heavy squat did more for my calves than anything. It's true for a lot of people. Apu, I have not always found traveling any sort of real travel to make it easy to maintain your fitness and diet routine. I don't necessarily have advice on that. Probably not the best person to ask. I mean, other than if it's important to you, you will find a way. I have not dealt with that. My travels have been fairly limited. I mean, I've traveled to places where I kind of have a plan, like not just random places where I'm just going to be in a hotel all the time. I've never actually done that as a fitness person. Is there any real benefits to pasture raised meat versus conventional? Not really sure what you're asking. Like most meat is raised in a pasture, at least here where I live. Like in terms of beef, and then it's finished out. So probably not. I mean, are you talking grass-fed beef versus even grain-fed? I've seen the reports looking at it. It's very, very, very minimal differences in like the content of like the fat content and stuff. It's not enough that I would say it's worth paying extra for. If you were to go just based on the studies that have looked at it, it's very, very small. Right. It's stuff like the ratios of different types of fats are a little bit different, but it's not like it still has some great, amazing fat profile when it's done. So you'll see a hair less saturated fat, a hair more omega 3s, but it's still a terrible source of omega 3s and it's still high in saturated fat. What do you think about triceps on pull day and biceps on push days? Well, those wouldn't be push or pull days if you did that, right? Chris, are you talking what people think of as traveling, or have I done stuff like long distance relationships or visiting people? Right, I've done a fair amount of visiting people, but as far as people would think of as traveling as an adult, no, that's stuff we did as vacations as a kid. I don't really do much of like just vacationing. I'm just going to go visit Germany for 2 weeks. No, I don't do stuff like that. Like things like that, I would say have been at absolutely zero. Um, have I gone to visit people for 4 or 5 days in other cities? Sure. But I still have access to their kitchens and other things, of course. Um, RDLs are superior to good mornings. I wouldn't say that. People do strange things in the gym. I saw a dude yesterday do a good mornings in the Smith machine. Yeah, I don't get that one either. I mean, I had someone ask about that already. All right. Looks like we're at about 50 minutes. I think I'm going to go ahead and wind this down. So I hope it's been informative. I love all of you guys and gals, and I will talk to you next time. But let me give you guys bicep shot before I go. Mount Bicephalus.